go to Trump. I quoted Trump all morning. Let's actually go to the audio sound bites. This in Fort Myers on the tarmac at the airport. Reporter says, "Are you open to citizenship for the Dreamers over time, you pig?"
We're not looking at citizenship. We're not looking at amnesty. We're looking at allowing people to stay here. We're working with everybody, Republican. We're working with Democrat. I just spoke with Paul Ryan. He's on board. Everybody's on board. They want to do something. We're not talking about amnesty. We're talking about taking care of people that were brought here, people that have done a good job and were not brought here of their own volition. But very importantly, what we want, we have to have a wall. If the wall is going to be obstructed, when we need the funds at a little bit later date, we'll be determining how much we need. Then we're not doing anything. Right.
Oh, well, there it was. You heard it. I mean, I quoted him earlier, but you just heard it here. If they don't get the money for the wall, we need the funds a little bit later. That's what Chuck and Nancy said. He said they're going to do the wall a little bit later. If we don't get the money for the wall, the funding, then we're not doing anything. Now, I got a guy from Katy, Texas on hold. His name is Andrew. Andrew, stay there. I don't have enough time to get to you. But Andrew is, he's not all hunky-dory with this and wants to explain why, and I want you to hear what he has to say. But there just isn't enough time. If Andrew were a highly trained broadcast specialist, he could make his point in 20 seconds like I do. But I wouldn't put that kind of pressure on a call. Andrew, you got 20 seconds, go. It's not fair to rank amateurs, folks. Lovable, not rank amateurs. That's why I leave the precise timing leading up to the ear-splitting tone time to get out to the highly trained broadcast specialists. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you here. Highlight of my day, being able to be here with you on the EIB network and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Anti-Leftist and Anti-Media Studies. Phone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address is lrushmo@eibnet.us. So I'm going to get to Andrew in Katy, Texas, but first, one more Trump soundbite. And this is where he emphasizes that there's no deal, that there was no deal, and that if the Democrats obstruct the wall, at some point he will obstruct them. This is in Fort Myers today. We played the first soundbite here right before the end of the hour. Here's the question again from the unidentified reporter. Why did the Democrats say there was a deal at dinner? You pig! Why did they say that? And you also hear some unidentified female reporters, and they just get in on the act here in Trump's answer. But see, here's what happened. AP puts the story out, and AP just doesn't run and watch. AP's in 4,000 newspapers, and thus 4 million websites. And the reporters all wanted it to be true. They want the story that Chuck and Nancy rolled Trump. So the reporter, well, why did the Democrats say there was a deal? See, the reporters think that Chuck and Nancy said they had a deal. And Chuck and Nancy are backtracked. No, we didn't say, well. So anyway, here's Trump's answer to this.
There was no deal, and they didn't say they had a deal. In fact, they just put out a statement. They didn't say that at all.
No relief for DACA recipients unless you get the wall? Is that what you're saying?
The wall, at some point, they're going to have to. They cannot obstruct the wall. The wall, to me, is vital. If I don't get the wall, then we will become the obstruction.
What has to come first, wall and agreement on the wall?
We have to have an understanding that whether it's in the budget or some other vehicle, in a fairly short period of time, the wall will be funded. Otherwise, we're not doing any deals.
I don't know how it could be any more clear. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to believe that Trump doesn't mean it, or that they tricked him and now he's trying to slide back out of it. But he even protected them in this answer. The reporter says, well, why did the Democrats say there was a deal at dinner then? Trump said, they just put out a statement. They didn't say that at all. So, Trump's defending them, at least their accuracy of what they said. And then the info babe said, no relief for DACA recipients unless you get the wall. Is that what you're saying? And Trump, well, you heard it. You made it explicitly clear here. So here is Andrew in Katy, Texas. I'm glad you waited. What's happening, Andrew? What do you want to say?
Hey, Russ. Thanks for taking my call today. I appreciate that.
You bet.
And so I just had a question for you. You were alluding to a lot today in regards to the wall. And
well,
that's what
Andrew, hey, could you slow down just a little bit so I can hear you or understand you? Okay, slow down just a little bit.
Yes, sir. So earlier today, you spent some time alluding to a lot of conservatives being upset over, the wall and then linking, the deal and trying to manipulate the deal to no wall and trying to paint that narrative. And based on what I'm seeing and based on, how I feel, it's not the wall, it's the amnesty portion of it. We have a president who campaigned that no amnesty, they have to go and then they can come back in. And those were his promises throughout the campaign. And for him to essentially, I know it's not amnesty, but it essentially will become amnesty, and that's what our president's doing, and I think that's what's got a lot of people ticked off, not the wall.
Okay. Now, he's explicitly said there isn't going to be amnesty. But you think that's a distinction without a difference, because if they're being allowed to stay, if they're not going to be deported, then you think they need to be deported. You think that's what he told you he was going to do during the... I'm
not necessarily saying that they should be deported. I'm just saying, if we control the House, we control the Senate, control the Supreme Court, control the presidency. Why are we even talking amnesty in the first place? That really shouldn't even be on the table. And yeah, if you want to build a border wall, that's great. I live in Texas, and a lot of people here.
Wait a minute. No, there is an answer to that. It's not going to be what you want to hear. But I agree with you. We run the House, we run the Senate, we run the White House. Why is amnesty even a word coming out of anybody's mouth? The reason is because the Republicans won't work with Trump on anything. You know that.
Right. And so instead of making a deal, I agree with you there.
The Democrats are the ones that put amnesty out in the public domain.
Well, I completely agree with you there, but what I would say is, use the bully pulpit of the presidency, or fight for midterm elections. You don't necessarily have to get a wall in your first year of the election and concede something like amnesty immediately. I just think that's just a terrible deal, and I think that's why a lot of people are ticked off, because we were promised the exact opposite essentially. And I don't think a lot of people, like you said, the imagery of doing something like that is not going to be positive, but. Before we even discuss those things, things like border security, our border needs to be secured before we even have that discussion, honestly. And that really needs to be
okay
where we're at.
Now, wait a second now, though. On the subject of border security, it is. The border is being beefed up every day, and it has been since Trump took office. It's not a big story. The drive-bys haven't spent a lot of time on it, but you know as well as I do that the numbers of people even trying to get in are way down. And you know why? It's because the people who would otherwise be trying to get in know full well the attitude of the current administration, which is not tolerant. There is Obama welcomed the world in. The Democrats welcomed the world. Come on in. We know we're the reason you're poor, and we know we owe it to you, and we know that America really should be your country. Come on in. Well, Trump, all during the campaign, no amnesty, deport, no, we're going to have a wall. The message got out, and the numbers of people trying to get in are down dramatically. There's already therefore some major improvement in the overall situation, and it's been brought about by one thing, and that is the simple enforcement of existing law. The Border Patrol has been beefed up, and Trump has given them marching orders. There are areas of the border that have a fence built, and those areas are being built up. But the overall numbers of people coming in, there's already vast improvement in the circumstance, just with the threat, just with the realization that the border isn't open any longer. And you have to factor that in. I mean, everybody's aware of that. Trump is aware of that. Believe me, the Democrats are. I hear you when you say, why is amnesty even on the table? We won the election. Those Democrats didn't win anything, and they're not even close. I totally agree, but the answer to that, look, I hate saying this. because it ticks me off, and it's not fun to sit here and blame your own team. But there's no way around it. It's flabbergasting. It's frustrating. Like I said in the first hour, we're never, ever going to have, we never thought we would have this opportunity. And the odds of it coming around again, therefore it needs to be sustained. And that means elections need to continue to be won. And that means Democrats need to continue to lose. And no matter where the Republicans are, the Democrats need to continue to lose. And at some point, try to bring the Republicans around. But when you have Trump, I mean, he doesn't want to sit there and do nothing. He doesn't want to sit there and get nothing done. People define action as coming after legislation. In truth, there is already plenty of improvement and a bunch of action taking place with just the simple enforcement of existing law. But because it doesn't involve a change, it's not perceived as dramatic change, even though on the ground it really is. The numbers of people trying to come in way down, number of people getting in way down, number of people leaving is way up. And so you have that on one hand. On the other hand, you've got official Washington that's not happy with any of that. I've not ever heard Trump say that he is for amnesty. In fact, grab soundbite number 5 again. This is I'm just going to play, maybe one half of this, Mike. So stand by for the stop the tape. Reporter says, are you open to citizenship for Dreamers over time?
We're not looking at citizenship. We're not looking at amnesty. We're looking at allowing people to stay here. We're working with everybody, Republican. We're working with Democrat. I just spoke with Paul Ryan. He's on board. Everybody's on board. They want to do something. We're not talking about amnesty. We're talking about taking care of people that were brought here, people that have done a good job and were not brought here of their own volition.
Stop the tape. It's a perfect definition of the Dreamers. They're kids. They did come of their own volition, a lot of them. I mean, the sneaky little truth here is part of these kids, a great number of them, are the ones that parents put them on the trains down in Central America, El Salvador and Guatemala, and sent them up here unaccompanied. Because the door was open. The Obama regime was welcoming them all in, and they'd cross the border, get off the trains. The Obama administration placed them in homes all over America. I didn't even process them. If you remember this, they weren't even going through the full processing stage. And there was one place, it was Rancho Murrieta. A bunch of them were busted in there, and people in Rancho Murrieta showed up at a town council meeting and said, no, we don't want them here. And so the bus went somewhere else. Some of them were offloaded. But the point is, the Obama administration offloaded these kids, and they put them in homes. It was all set up. And that's who we're talking. They were not, they did come of their own volition to the extent that an 8 or 9 year old could come, but they came by themselves. They were not accompanied. We always suspected at the time that the real intent here was to get them here, knowing full well that nobody's going to start rounding up a bunch of kids and send them home. And the next thing that was going to happen, people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy would go to the microphones and cameras. It's so horrible. All these brave children braving the crime and the heat and the weather, coming in these horrible conditions in those freight cars with a bunch of cattle and cattle poop. And how we can't let their parents in. I don't know who was. So it was a push to get their parents in. And that's what the parents thought. So it was all part of a grand strategery. And I'm convinced that it was. So that's who we're talking about here, is these kids. And Trump is saying, well, I've said it myself. We're not, nobody wants to be in charge of pictures of a roundup of, and now they're not 8 or 9 anymore. They're a little older than that. And some of them are not even kids. Some of them have aged beyond 20 and 21. But the question I have for you, we're not talking amnesty. Let me get the exact quote from the Trumpster. We're not looking at citizenship. We're not looking at amnesty. We're looking at allowing people to stay here. Would somebody like to tell me the distinction? Would somebody like to tell me the difference? We're not going to grant them amnesty. Nobody's talking amnesty. We're not looking at amnesty. We're looking at allowing people to stay here. Quick time out. We'll be back with more after this.